Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People. In today's episode, entitled neighbor is angry, I am using my park space. Childhood friend thinks he has rights to my car. My friend feels like she's entitled to make up conspiracy theories about my fiancé. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Entitled neighbor is angry, I am using my park space. My 30th husband 27M and I live in a closed street of small houses. Each house has a parking spot, plus most people owning more than one car park in parallel in front of their house. We didn't own a car because we both worked from home and hate driving, plus public transport here is not so bad. We have a neighbor who owns 3 cars, so obviously he has no space to park them all at his house. He asked our next door neighbor, we can call him Ian, if he could park outside of her house. She also does not drive, and she said yes, but Ian, in order to not block his other car, parks all the way in front of my driveway. TBH, I would not have minded if he had asked, but the fact that he just does it annoys me. Also, my family comes to visit often, and if they come by car, he usually is blocking and we have to ask him to move, and every time he gets mad as if we were asking for a favor. Anyway, I got a nice promotion that involved in-person work 3 times a week, so we decided it was time to get a car. We bought a nice practical one and got it in our park space. Well, next morning the guy was blocking my exit. I rang his doorbell like crazy. It was 6 a.m., and when he finally came out I asked him to move and to not park there anymore. He got defensive and said that my neighbor let him park in front of her house, to what I answered yes, but this is my house, and if you block my entrance again I'm gonna remove your car. He moves and the next day he is blocking again. We realize he left the car open, so we let the handbrake loose and pushed the car to the middle of the street, in front of his driveway. I put a note on his windshield saying next time it's a tow truck, put tape over his doorbell so it continues ringing, and I left as quickly as I could. He hasn't said anything, but he hasn't parked there anymore. These are the stories I live for. I dream to be as ballsy as you someday. Especially since he had an attitude. Yes, that was the main issue. For almost a year before having the car he was super rude whenever we asked him to move, so he really wasn't in our nice list, huh? That is awesome. Way to handle the problem. He will think long and hard before blocking your driveway again. We used to have a neighbor, block of flats, never met them, who used to park in our allotted space because we had no car and they had too. My parents were coming up, so I left a note on their car door telling them to leave the space free as we need it. They did, but started parking there again after they noticed it was empty for a few days in a row after the visit. Cycle continued. Not once did we give them permission to actually park there, and even asked in the notes if they could refrain from doing so, as sometimes we just want to invite people over but they have nowhere to park. Down the line the parking code gave them a fine, so we got a note in our letterbox asking for us to just give them our permit, promising to give it back when we needed it, sure, and write to the company to let them know we had an agreement. Definitely contacted the company, but to thank them for the fine and let them know how often we had to deal with it. I had an upstairs neighbor that liked a certain spot. Well, it happened to be the parking spot that lined up right in front of my door. He wouldn't move when I was moving in. It would have been great to back into that spot and unload everything. But then it got so bad, if he wanted to leave and he was in the spot directly in front of my door, he would send his wife outside to sit in the parking spot. Because when I come home, if the closest spot to my front door is available, then I'm taking it. It's literally one spot over, and he threatened to bash my windows in if I parked in his spot. We didn't have assigned spots. But the kicker, his wife sat in the parking spot in the rain to hold it for him, so I wouldn't take it. I submitted the picture to the manager and they got moved to another unit. Finally evicted when his wife tried throwing a neighbor off the second-story porch. Childhood friend thinks he has rights to my car. So this happened about 15 years ago, and I thought it would be nice for this subreddit. I had a childhood friend, Steve, 28 at the time, not his real name, go through a really bad breakup with a girl he had been dating for multiple years. He eventually started dating an 18-year-old girl, Kate, also a fake name, as a rebound that he met at a party. Kate was an enormous mooch. She was always asking for handouts and never had a job as long as I knew her. Steve had gotten a DUI in his early 20s and had his license taken away as a result. I don't know the details or semantics of how it works, as I've never had a DUI and never cared to look up how it worked. Steve was driving someone else's car when he got the DUI, he didn't have a car himself. So after the DUI he never tried to get his license stuff fixed or anything so that he could drive himself. He had his ex drive him everywhere when they were together. About a month after his breakup, his mother passed away. I started spending a lot more time with him because of this awful event, not that we weren't hanging out before, but it increased after this, and I offered to drive him around wherever he wanted to go. This went on for months, almost an entire year. It got to the point where I got tired of driving him and allowed Kate to drive him if he wanted to go somewhere. This went on for anywhere between 6 to 8 months. He was taking the bus to work at this time, but I ended up dating one of Kate's roommates. She was close to my age, and I started just sleeping at their place, and so did Steve. He usually got up for work 2 hours before I did, so I would let Kate drive him to work and bring my car back so I could go to work after. Except one morning, for some reason, he set his alarm way later than he usually did. I heard it go off not long before I was getting up to get ready for work. He told me he has enough time to make it to work on time and to get the car back to me. I took it in stride and trusted that he was right. So I wait for Kate to get back. My girl at the time had to work about 30 minutes earlier than I did, so she had already left for work. So time ticks down, I am texting Steve and Kate and not getting any replies. It took about 30 minutes to an hour, depending on traffic, to get to my job from my girl's house. About 10 minutes before my shift starts at work, Kate waltzes in with a Burger King bag. She tells me something about the drive-thru taking too long or something, no apologies for being late. Of course it took close to an hour to get to work. I called my boss beforehand and told them the situation and they weren't happy. I got a written warning at my job because I was so late. I think my boss wanted to give me a formal write-up. She really didn't like me. Steve later texted me a really lame apology, something like, "Sorry you were late, but there was enough time for you to make it if you would have hurried." So I told Steve the next time I saw him that Kate was no longer driving my car, and I'm not being his taxi anymore. He flew off the handle at this. He started saying stuff like how I legally couldn't deny him a ride anywhere because he has a DUI on his record, how he had just as much right to use my car as I did. His name was not anywhere on my car and he never made any payments for me or anything like that, so I had no idea where he was coming from on that one. He barely paid me gas money sometimes, and then he started using his mom passing as an excuse. Now I was very sympathetic about the whole situation, and was there when he needed to talk or needed a ride or just generally when he needed a friend, so I was insulted that he even brought her into this equation. So we stopped talking. Years later, we reconciled but weren't as close as we were before. He ended up getting married, not to Kate. Apparently that relationship ended horribly. I hung out with him a few times, and then COVID hit and I didn't really see much of anyone. My dad passed away earlier this year, and I got a message on social media from his wife that was like, "Sorry about your dad." But never anything from him. I guess he didn't have to say anything, but it would have been nice since I was there for him, and he knew my dad very well. Ugh. He had no rights to your car. He was so inconsiderate. This guy's a user. Not sure in what world he's entitled to your car. His life choices led him to getting a DUI. He doesn't get to now have a free but unwilling chauffeur. Maybe he thought squatters' right also applies to vehicles. He started saying stuff like how I legally couldn't deny him a ride anywhere because he has a DUI on his record. Funny how people become legal experts all of a sudden. Yeah, I talked it over with another friend who knows Steve, and the friend thought Steve got it mixed up with the thing where if someone gets drunk at your house, and they leave and get in an accident, then you'd be liable. My friend feels like she's entitled to make up conspiracy theories about my fiancé. I met my fiancé when he was here in the US on a student visa. He switched his majors when he was in school. Back in June, he assumed he had to go back to his country to receive a new visa because he saw friends go back for their visas. His friends stayed within the same major and he didn't. So for that, he unfortunately got denied. We were both devastated and we have been stressed ever since. He has another visa interview coming up, so we're hoping he'll pass that one, but if not, since we're already engaged, we're going to proceed with the K1 fiancé visa process. I don't think my friend likes my fiancé all that much. She always pointed out to me that he lacks being assertive, and she would constantly mention it to the point that it's just hurtful. I think since he left to go back and everything going on, he became more assertive and confident. I also know my fiancé has anxiety, and I get it, I have anxiety too. I wouldn't judge him for it because it's so common to have anxiety, and I'm even medicated for it. I feel like she uses the fact that he has anxiety against him as well. I don't like some traits her boyfriend has, but I never mentioned it to her. I think he's an alpha male, treats people horribly, and a know-it-all. But it's not my place to even mention what I don't like about him because I know how happy he makes her. When my fiancé got denied the visa, I went to her place to talk to her about it. Her boyfriend has knowledge of visas because he came here to the US on a work visa. When I told them what happened, they both aggressively blamed my fiancé and insisted I was stupid. Her boyfriend also yelled in my face and pointed his finger at me. She just sat back and let her boyfriend aggressively get in my face. She also insisted he's only using me for a green card and that he's trying to get me to go back with him to his country. I know it's neither thing because I had countless conversations with him of if he wants to stay in the US or go back home. Also, it can't be either option, lol, it would have to be one or the other. After all of that, I thought we moved past it, and she did apologize. But when we were texting, she told me she thinks my fiancé left because life was too hard for him here. The easiest outcome was for him to leave for a vacation to see his family and then come back because he knew he was going to marry me, that his dad didn't want to pay rent for him anymore, and that his parents were going to financially cut him off if he doesn't come back. She just came up with all these conspiracy theories about him. It's not fair at all that she would say this stuff about him without knowing him and the situation. Yes, he made a big mistake by leaving and should have talked to a lawyer. But she has no right to come up with these theories without trying to understand the situation. Even when I tried to explain it to her, she told me that I don't know what's going on and she feels like she knows the answer. I told her that she's just making up conspiracy theories about him and I have knowledge of this because I'm the one in the relationship. I told her I'm sure she's looking out for me, but I'm no longer talking about this. Every time she tried to bring it up, I told her the conversation is over. But I feel like she hasn't moved past what I said, and even texting her now she seems distant and mad. I don't know, was she looking out for me? Or is her conspiracy theories and what she said about my fiancé completely unnecessary? That is not your friend. And her boyfriend is the aggressive they wish your fiancé could become. The best way to show someone's true intentions is to hold a mirror to their face. Is he using your friend for a visa? And you're friends with her, why exactly? She might genuinely believe that you're being taken advantage of, but her letting her boyfriend yell at you and wave his finger in your face doesn't speak well of her. I couldn't imagine allowing a man I was dating to disrespect a friend like that. If she has concerns, there are much better ways to address them with you, and a good friend says their piece and allows you to make your own decision. If they can't bear to watch what they believe is a mistake, withdraw from the situation, don't denigrate your friend. Your friends don't sound very trustworthy, or even like friends very much. If you trust your fiancé, then cut these two friends off and just focus on helping your fiancé get back into the country. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.